I think a lot of people went to school with had this idea of, oh, they made it because of what it looked like on social media. But in reality, think about all the bills that go into, rent or mortgage and food. We just were spending it somewhere else,
Right. Welcome to Functional Conversations, brought to you by The Function. I'm your host, DJ Shaky. I'm here with a friend of mine, Katie Batres. Get it right?
Yep.
So Katie's a dancer / multiple things, but now we transitioned into a world of finance. Mm-hmm. It's kind of fitting, right? So, well, first of all, how you been? I haven't seen you in a while. How you been?
Good. Very pregnant now.
I see. Congratulations,
so
by the way.
Not dancing as much. Thank you. Yeah, but other than that, really good.
Good. Let's start from the beginning. Where do you think your creative journey started?
Oh, man. I feel like I've always had a creative side since I was young. It was always something new, but it definitely exploded during high school when I was in drill team and I loved dance. And I kind of just did it because my mom was a drill team herself. But then we switched out coaches my senior year. And when a new coach was brought in, she said, hey, let's take dance outside of the high school studio. Let's go visit actual studios. And the first one she took me to was Boogie Zone. And the first class I ever took was with Ricky Cole. And I was like, this is a whole new world. It was so different than just regular drill team. And I didn't realize people could do that for a living.
Yeah, which is kind of what we're going to get to. So your first class was with Ricky Cole?
It was with Ricky Cole.
And this was in high school?
And this was in high school, yeah,
okay.
Senior year.
So in high school, did you already start dancing or it was just taking classes still?
It was just taking classes. I think I turned 18 when I was still in school because my birthday's so early on in the year. And so luckily he was hosting auditions for his company, which was Soul Fresh Fam. And so I was still in high school, but I was about to graduate soon, but I went to auditions anyway. And I started dancing with Soul Fresh soon after that, but it was probably only a month before graduation. Right. So most of it came right after.
Shout out to Ricky and Soul Fresh, by the way. Okay, so you auditioned while you were still in high school?
Yes.
And then you got in right away?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Found out we got in like a couple days before we had this dance show at the end of the year at our high school. And me and my friend found out that we got in at the same time. And we were so excited.
Nice.
Because we're like something outside of school, which I didn't even know existed because I never took classes when I was younger or anything.
So that was just the beginning of dance for you in general because you were doing drill.
Yeah. So I feel like that's considered to start late, right? When someone says they're a dancer, they start at like 4.
Yeah. I
started like senior year. I was kidding.
I think I was like 12 or 13.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's only a few years before you.
That's true.
Well, since I haven't had Ricky on the show, kind of maybe explain the dynamics of Soul Fresh. Like it's a dance company.
Yes.
Yeah, so go ahead and kind of elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, so just joining in, to me, it was an experience to learn from people in the industry, but it still had a community feel. It was called Soul Fresh Fam, right? And emphasis on the fam because everyone instantly felt like family. And shortly after that, I started exploring, going more into the industry, wanting to go to auditions and stuff like that. I was like, oh, this is different, because I was so used to the Soul Fresh Fam company where things felt way more community style. So I feel like it was the best of both worlds where you got to train industry, but you still got the support and the just the energy or the vibes of community, which I really loved. So
you'd say it's kind of like a training ground?
Yeah.
But kind of doing some professional work here and there.
Right, exactly. I saw so many people come through, train and transition into industry. You come from community, go into industry and do amazing things. Like, I feel like that's something I saw Ricky do over and over with so many people, just become these amazing dancers. And I fell in love so much with the process that I decided this is where I like to stay. I became core with Soul Fresh, and I found that my passion really laid there, like wanting to stay with the people that come in and transition them out, Right. And that's really where I found my passion. I stayed for a very long time.
So just for the people listening, the kind of the terminology, right, when you're saying community, are typically dancers who are doing like community events or, not to put it down, but it's like not getting paid.
Right.
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 And whereas, yeah, when you're doing when you're a commercial dancer is when you're starting to get paid.
Yeah, exactly. Industry, you start actually booking jobs and you're getting paid and maybe being flown out or traveling. And it's totally different side of dance, but they both have special places in my heart for sure.
Right. Right. It's always been kind of weird to me to have a division between the two because I feel like you kind of have to learn somewhere, right?
Right.
So it's just kind of, for some people it's a step, for some people this is what they do. I'm not going to dive too deep into that. But so through So Fresh, you stayed on as one of like the key people in the group, like his core members, right? So what did you learn from that?
How to deal with a lot of different personalities, but also how to come out of my own shell. I mean, there's a lot of personal development that comes in being in the entertainment industry in general, in terms of, developing that tough skin, in terms of how to handle different people, and not even just the people you're working with, but maybe even the people that brought you on to do a set with them. Having to learn choreo quickly, but also learn other people's styles. And when you're one of those key players, it's good to be well-rounded. I felt like, I'm really good at learning and then performing. But it's like, okay, what else do you bring to the team at that point? You kind of have to learn, okay, even though I don't feel naturally good at teaching, I better learn how to explain moves and be able to break them down.
Right.
Which is a totally different skill than just teaching and hoping they pick it up.
So how long before you became one of those core members from when you started?
That's a great question. I don't know, maybe 3 years.
2-3 years?
Yeah, probably 2
And then
years.
from when you started to when you actually started doing like industry work, commercial work, how long was that?
That was mainly towards the end. And the crazy part about this is that Ricky had such a big part in it. However, when I went more into industry, I actually switched over. I was still dancing, but I switched over to modeling first. And that's something Ricky helped me with in the back end, just in terms of like recreating my social media, making it a resume, how to talk to people who are higher up when you go to set, stuff like that to get different opportunities. So he played a big part in that. I'm not sure if he even realizes. So I went more industry when it came to the modeling side. And when people found out, you dance as well, that's when dance kind of got pulled into the industry side.
So let's kind of talk about the modeling stuff a little bit. So obviously, so that came up about how long into your dance career?
Probably same time, like 2-3 years. Because I loved like helping friends that were photographers and like, hey, I'll model for you, and doing like fun stuff like that and just being creative on my own. But actually getting booked and paid for stuff was definitely a few years later.
So I think that's how we really got to know each other, is because Ricky would bring you to a couple of our shoots.
Yeah.
So I was like, Ricky need a couple of people to shoot in our World of Dance merchandise or whatever.
Right.
So then that's how we got to shoot a little more. And then I think, then I brought you for some of the fitness stuff.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Even that's a type of modeling, just fitness modeling,
right?
In the background, trying to do like
that was a real workout.
It was a workout. He was not playing.
So when you got into modeling, was there like some creativity to it on like how you would approach it?
So I really enjoyed how every day was different with modeling. Every person wanted a completely different look. Wardrobe was different. The style we were going for was different. Even the jobs were different, because I didn't just stick to, for example, I did stuff with like Shein and Fashion Nova, and that was like amazing. And it was like, that's what I was aiming for. It was so cool. And then after that, it moved more into music videos, and I did a lot of stuff with a lot of big Indian artists. So every shoot, every day just felt different. And I felt like I was the type of person that needed that. I didn't like waking up and doing the same thing every single day, because I worked some jobs through those times too. And I don't think I lasted at a normal job for more than 3 months.
What were some of your normal jobs?
Target. I couldn't.
Okay.
I love Target. I just don't like working there.
You still spend money at Target.
I still spend money at Target.
You just don't have to wear a red shirt.
Exactly. And I did the same thing every day. It's not like they gave me something different. I was the person that just pulled things to the front of the shelf, and it would take up my entire 8-hour day. I don't know how, but it did. And I couldn't do it. Another one was like Fabletics. That one was cool because I liked workout. Fabletics.
Okay.
It's like Lululemon, if you think about that.
So retail.
Retail, workout clothes. And so that was cool, mainly because I liked getting all the workout clothes. But yeah, I was calling off so many days of work. That was actually one of the last places like that I worked, like a regular hey, you get paid on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis, right? That was one of the last places because my assistant manager at the time pulled me aside. He was like, let's go for a walk. I was like, okay, what's going on? He's like, I think your career's taken off. You should just resign. And it was his nice way of saying you should quit before the company fires you. Because I was asking for a lot of days off because that's when booking's starting to really pick up. And I didn't care if they actually gave me the days off or not. I was just not showing up at work to go do those creative jobs.
Right. So you said, you mentioned earlier, so a lot of the modeling stuff and the dance stuff came at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you kind of already said that you were working regular jobs at the time to kind of just pay bills or whatever, but it started taking off. When was there a point where, well, obviously it was super busy, but like, was there like a number, or was it just realizing like, yo, I'm really busy and I can't do this work anymore? Like, when did you decide to just actually pull the trigger and quit?
Well,
specifically with the manager,
that conversation, because I was like, oh, they're going to fire me. But also it was him pointing out how many days I was taking off. Because to me, hey, if I didn't book something today, let me go to the normal job I was on the schedule for anyway and make some money. Why not? And I realized, oh, this isn't going to work with the type of lifestyle I want, where if I book something very last minute, which happens very often in the entertainment industry, you could book something that night. And if you're available, you got the part. If you're not, you don't. They ask somebody else. I needed something way more flexible. So I thought to myself, even if I am going to get a regular job again, it can't be something like this, All
right. So when you started working a lot, how often was a lot?
At least 3 or 4 times a week.
Okay.
It was pretty consistent. It was pretty consistent all the way up into the time I started going 3 or 4 times a week, which was, I'm trying to think of the year. I'm not great with years, but I want to say 2016, 2017, all the way up until the pandemic. So about 2020.
Okay.
And I was living the life. I mean, to put in perspective too, just so everyone knows the full story, I was still living at home. I was actually before I had officially started transitioning into the new field of finance, which I know we'll get into, I'd already been married for a good amount of years while I was doing the entertainment side of stuff. But we were living at my parents'. They had a place that was big enough. They're like, hey, take your time. And we're like, okay. He had a really good job, so he was bringing in a bulk of the money. I was bringing in pretty consistent money, and I just felt like it was a season in my life where we're taken care of. We really weren't struggling the way a lot of people I know who move out of state to LA to do this struggle. And so at a certain point, though, my parents had to sit us down and say, we're doing this because we love you, but we want you guys to really see what it feels like to go out and fly and be on your own. And that's when things really started getting serious of, okay, can we take care of ourselves?
Right. So at that point, like, did you even think about it until they mentioned it?
I didn't even think about it. I was living the life. In my mind, I was like, I'm still a child. I wasn't. At this point, I was in my early 20s. Some of my friends moved out at the early age of 18. Like right when they turn 18, they're out of the house. And for me, I was like, yeah, I know I'm, 22, 23, 24, but I feel like I'm still a teenager. So that was just my mindset during that time.
I feel like being in dance with actual teenagers doesn't help that.
Yeah, that's true. The wide range of people that's a part of your team and company. You have people a lot older, you have people a lot younger. And so you kind of just all feel like...
Yeah, and then I think like there's a point in your 20s and you're in a dance environment where you're not quite one of the elders, but you're not the younger kids.
Yeah.
So unless you actually stop to think about it, you're not really going to realize where you're at.
100%.
So it took your parents to kind of say something.
Oh yeah. Like, hey, you guys should go out and see what it feels like, to be able to live on your own and get your own food and groceries. And it's not that we weren't like paying rent. We were there or contributing to groceries or anything like that. Because with my parents, we had that set up. Like, it's not like I was just living there free, but we were definitely living there for way cheaper than most people would if we were on our own completely. And so I think it was also one of those, they really supported me in what I wanted to do on the entertainment side. So did my husband. And they let us take the time to use that money to go all out, to go to these fancy dinners, to travel. I mean, me and my husband were traveling all the time. And that's because most of our money was able to go to things like that. So it's definitely not a season we regret at all, but we're very grateful for the season that did get a little bit harder when we were on our own. And we were like, ooh, this is completely different.
Right. So in hindsight, just kind of looking back at it, if you were on your own at that time, would you have survived?
I think we would have survived, but we wouldn't have been living the lifestyle we had. You know, I think a lot of people, and this is just from having conversations with people, even in our own city. We both come from San Pedro, a smaller city in Southern California. And I think a lot of people we went to school with had this idea of, oh, they made it because of what it looked like on social media. But in reality, think about all the bills that go into, you know, rent or mortgage and food. We just were spending it somewhere else, you know?
Right. So when did you finally actually step out, get your own place? Was it shortly?
It was shortly after the pandemic.
Okay. Well, let's get to that. So how did you make it through the pandemic?
So this is where the transition period.
You were still at home.
I was still at home. This is where the transition period kind of came in because so what I noticed, right, is during the pandemic, right before it hit, I was probably in the height of, dang, I'm booking things so consistently. I was working with this really big Indian production company, and almost exclusively at that point, I really loved working with them. And when the pandemic hit, they kind of canceled a lot of things that were in the works. You know, we technically weren't supposed to be filming music videos, and if people were, it was very under the table type of thing. There was no like concerts, there was studios all together sweating in a room. No, those were the first things to shut down. And so I realized, dang, this check I kind of relied on for fun, right? It flew out the window. And I needed another way to start making money. And I kind of looked around my industry and realized, dang, even the people I've been here for a lot longer than me, we're in the same financial situation. I'm still young in my 20s and I'm freaking out. There's people a lot older that are just waiting for that $1,200 stimulus check just as much as I was. Right. And I said, okay, I never really thought about how I was going to make this work long term, but I should probably start thinking about it now. And that's kind of what stemmed into my first steps of transitioning into a new field, which was finances.
So you stepped into finance in the middle of the pandemic? Yeah,
probably right when it hit. Like it hit, and then I transitioned very quickly, like same week.
Okay. So really think about it, so you'd probably only been dancing and working for what, maybe 4, 5, 6 years?
Yeah. And in my mind, I was going to do it for the rest of my life, like full time, not thinking about age or if my body breaks down or if anything happens to me. You don't really think about that. Right. I was just thinking.
Well, obviously not now because you are about to have a child.
Right.
But is dance still kind of something you're still into, still doing?
On a passionate side.
Okay.
Like dance, I mean, when I say I'm very pregnant, like I'm in my 3rd trimester. Actually today, yeah. As of today, I started my 3rd trimester, which is exciting. And I'm still dancing as much as I can. Not in studios or anything because I get tired real fast, but at home. Okay. And I think even once, I push this baby out, I'm not sure how consistent I will be. I know I'll want to continue dancing for the fun of it. But in terms of wanting to do it for work and actually get paid, I think I've made the conscious decision of really going down the lane of finance, but for the pure purpose of supporting people that are still in the entertainment field.
It's kind of how I thought of even bringing you into the conversation for this, because I feel like a lot of people who work in a creative field don't really have any sort of financial plan, right? But before we dive too deep into that, let me talk about what got you into it. I mean, obviously necessity, but was there like someone you knew or?
Yeah, so back like a few years before the pandemic, my husband started putting on these networking events. And one of the last ones was in February 2020. And so I remember during this one event, we had a bunch of business owners there, and it was just so they could collaborate, and I would just be there to support because that's more my husband's thing. And one of our main speakers was supposed to talk about finance. Something happened, they couldn't make it. And we were like, what are we going to do? I'm sure this is the part every business owner wanted to hear the most. So we were asking around everywhere, like, does anyone know anyone crazy enough to come down to downtown LA right now and speak in front of a bunch of business owners, but they have to be here now. And someone was like, I think I know someone. And her name was Angela Umel, who is now my senior broker of the office that I work with them. But at the time, I didn't know who she was, but she came and she not only brought herself, but she brought a bunch of people from her office too. And I was like, man, she can really mobilize, right? And so she came and she not only told her story, but she talked about finance in a way that was going to really help a lot of people in that room. And it was the first time I started thinking as well, dang, me and my husband never even thought about this. And we're both in industries that don't pay you like a stable paycheck. We're both in industries where it's up to us if we bring in that money. And so a lot of the things she was saying, I realized can help us if we learned about this. Simple concepts that we should be learning in high school or at least college, but we're not getting that education. And so that really excited me. So I don't know, a couple of weeks after, we continued talking just through text because me and her really clicked. And she ended up bringing me on to teach her team about social media. And I was like, what am I going to teach a bunch of financial professionals about social media? Or why would they even want to do it? Not realizing it could overlap. And then we became clients first. Like it really started from that. She supported me and my husband on putting us on the right financial path to reaching the goals and the lifestyle that we see for our future. And no one had ever done that for us before. So I was like, who else needs this? Everyone in my industry.
Yeah, I feel, I mean, anyone in any industry really, but in what we do, I feel it's important for everyone to just kind of like hear it, right?
Yeah.
Because even myself, my dad was doing essentially essentially what you're doing.
Yeah.
But my dad passed 2012, right?
Okay.
And he had told me stuff, but we never really like sat and like broke it down.
Took the action. Right?
Yeah. So, fast forward, I ended up getting like life insurance plans with like another friend.
Okay.
And then fast forward, I redid it again. My uncle does it too, so set it up with my uncle.
Yeah.
But I mean, people don't know like life insurance is kind of something that it's multiple things, right? Obviously, it's like insurance for anyone you leave behind, right?
Right.
But also, it's like an investment as well. When you first got into it, what were kind of some of the things that you were surprised to hear about?
The biggest thing I was surprised to hear is that a lot of the people that were very wealthy at a younger age were investing in things such as insurance rather than the typical way that you hear that's trending online, such as go for stocks or go for a bunch of rental properties, which I think there's a million different ways to make money. But I didn't know that there was a way as safe as insurance could be.
Right.
And I didn't even know that was something that you can do. In my mind, I'm young, I'm healthy, nothing's ever going to happen to me. Why do I even have to put money towards something like that? And I think that's one of the biggest myths of insurance is that it's all it's used for, when in reality, a lot of the wealthy people that got this education understand it's a way to shelter their money from taxes. And so, yes, it helps a lot of families, it helps a lot of individuals, but it even helps small businesses to big businesses. There's so many different ways you can use it. And I really like the company I'm with specifically because as independent agents, technically we're with them, but we're all independent. It allows me to really put someone on a financial path that even if they're set up fully with insurance, there's so many different directions I can still go with them about their finance. Because we're non-captive, we can work with so many different companies across the country. I could say, okay, if you're set up in this area, let's look at something else that maybe you haven't looked at before or thought of to make sure there's no gaps that you're going to fall into when trying to reach that financial goal.
I mean, just to kind of point out for people, even something simple like me personally, that first policy I had, when I closed that and the money I made off of it was a down payment for a new car. Which I needed at the time. So it was all perfect timing. It was more than enough for the down payment. And I'd only had it for a few years. It wasn't like I had it for a crazy long time. Like it put a decent amount in there.
Yeah.
What are some of the first few things you would kind of set up for someone in a similar field as us?
Oh, there's a lot of things. So I'll say when I sit with somebody, I like to follow what I believe is like the foundation of a portfolio, that they should have a solid foundation. Anything else they want to explore or do, hey, throw on top of that. But don't just get into something that looks like it's going to make a lot of money or it's promising the world to you and you have a shaky foundation too. And I don't want to list specific products because I don't want to seem biased or anything, but just going over general topics, a financial path I usually put all of my clients on is number one, let's talk about cash flow. I can teach a client or someone, for example, in our industry, all about the amazing things that are out there for them that can change their life and their future generations, and I really believe that. But if they don't have the right cash flow to be able to invest or to be able to even start on this financial path, it's going to be very hard. They're going to have all the education and nothing to actually start it with. So I start there to see what we can do to actually start putting money towards these accounts that will change their future. After cash flow, it goes into debt. Especially in our industry, it's very easy to say, dang, I really want to go, for example, especially on the community side, which I was in for a very long time. And you have to go somewhere and you're not getting paid for it. You just do it because you love it. There's a lot of traveling involved. And when you're freshly 18, what's the first thing that comes in the mail? It's those credit cards. And you don't have any credit yet. So your interest rate is crazy and you don't even realize it. You're just swiping that card. And so the second thing is covering debt, seeing how we can lift that burden off of their shoulders first, because they might have an extra $500 to $1,000 to spend per month, but instead it's going back to credit card bills or student loans or medical bills if they're a little bit older. Then, of course, we talk about protection, something like insurance, especially if someone has a home, they have kids, they got married, sharing the different ways they can use it. That goes into building wealth, not just making sure you protect what you have. How to actually build for my future, I think for entertainment. The number one thing, we've talked about this before, the unfortunate part is if you're not making tons and tons and tons of money, like what the top maybe 5 to 10% of people in our industry make, then they're forced to have to go a different direction. Even though they're really passionate about being in the entertainment industry, whatever that might be, they're forced to say, is this going to work for me long term? It's not stable, but with the right products and with the right financial planning, it could very much be stable for them. They could very much have an amazing future. And so showing them different ways to build wealth. And then, of course, preserving that wealth. If I'm sitting with someone who in the industry maybe has had great success in it, the saddest part is a couple years later seeing someone lose all of it because they blew through their money, where if they had a plan and it was really written out and they followed it, that money could have been passed down for generations. They could have been the person that changed everything for their family. So I really like going through all those different steps just to make sure that a person isn't only being helped in one area, because any one of those gaps can have somebody starting from the beginning again.
So let's try to break it down. Let's take someone in dance, for example,
Okay.
like kind of in layman's terms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say they are maybe a little older than 18. Let's say they're like 23, 24. They've already been dancing, working. Let's say they want to dance for a long time.
Right.
Right? Like they want to dance. Because, I have friends who've bought houses and still teach or whatever.
Yeah.
They've made a living off of it. They've done the big celebrity tours. Let's say somebody wants to do that and be that. That's something you can guide them along the way with, yes?
100%, yeah.
But obviously, they still need to be booking work, right? So let's say
Right.
someone has a slow period and they don't have a lot of work. What happens then?
We talk about what they could possibly do to up that cash flow. The cool part about our company is we do have options to support our clients and being able to bring in extra cash flow if they want to. It's not going to be for everyone, and that's okay too. So I've also helped a lot of people just come up with, hey, what are you good at? What else can you do? When I was dancing and there was times when maybe it was a slower period and we had a vacation coming up, or there was something I had to pay for, even when I was living at my parents', what I would do is you just grind it out. And I think that's something a lot of people in the entertainment industry have. But if they don't, it's something you have to develop. If there's an opportunity in front of you, take it. Even if it's something like DoorDash or Uber Eats, which isn't, glamorous and it's not the lifestyle that everybody wants. There's going to be seasons in our life where just bring in that cash flow, bringing in for a certain amount of time, because investing it in the right things is going to make sure if that happens again in the future, you could just pull from those accounts. You're not going to have to grind your whole life. Right. So kind of implementing this mindset of if you want this long term, there's going to be some sacrifices you have to make right now, but they're worth it.
If people are setting up making those sacrifices now, what are the benefits for later?
Oh my gosh, it being so much easier to be able to relax. If, let's say, especially in entertainment and especially physically for using our bodies, for example, sometimes your body breaks down a lot faster than you would hope it would, right? Making sure that any emergency that comes for their future, or if they're just in a phase of their life where they're ready to relax, lay back a little bit, they can still keep up with the lifestyle that they've built for themselves. It's not a constant grind. And it's so much easier the earlier they start. For example, there's products out there and there's plans out there where if they implemented it at the age of 18, even though they're really young, they could put away $100, $200, which easily, if you're booking consistently, that's maybe one job out of the month, right?
Right.
If they just put that into the right plan or strategy, by the time they're in retirement, they could retire. They could be on the beaches of Mexico sipping a pina colada. They really can, if it's put in the right strategies. Now, someone that doesn't start taking it serious until maybe their 40s, 50s. I've sat with people close to retirement that said, I'm finally thinking about it now. I'm like, man, if you started this at 18, $100, $200 would have been great at your age. If you're not putting at least $1,000 to $2,000 a month away, there's probably not going to be a lot we can do. And so just showing the younger generation, it's so much easier when you start now. Start now, don't wait. Because every year that passes is probably another 100 or a couple hundred you're going to have to put away just to make up for what you would if you started way later.
Right. So start young if you're listening.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Well, let's back it up real quick. What is your official title? Or is there one?
There's a couple different things you could go based off, right? I usually like to say financial educator, financial strategist, financial professional, but when somebody asks, well, what do you do? I think saying a simple title can either have somebody make an automatic assumption of, oh, okay, she does that product specifically. And so when somebody asks what I do, I usually like to explain to them, do you understand how most people have a vision of what they want their future and lifestyle to look like, but they don't know how to get there? Well, what I do is I create strategic plans and solutions to make sure they get on the right path to hit that at some point in their life.
The first impression I had from when I first spoke to someone about it, a lot of it comes off as very salesy, mm-hmm. right? And in theory, it is, but it isn't, right?
Right.
Like it's kind of sales, yes, but you're kind of helping yourself. Mm-hmm. How do you kind of navigate around that?
I fully focus on education. And I love that you brought that up because I think what holds a lot of people back from giving another professional a shot is them saying the same thing. I sat with somebody, it felt very pushy or forceful, and it almost felt like I was trying to be sold something. No one wants to be sold something, even if it's their future. Nobody wants to be sold. And so I focus primarily on the education of it, letting the client know whether they work with me or not. Here's everything that you should know. Just living here in the United States, especially in California, I'm just going to give you everything that you probably want to know and that's going to help you. And when somebody's ready, I'm typically the first person they bring back because there isn't that pushy aspect. It's here's everything. And if you make the decision that this is something you want for your future, you know who to call. And I think that it's important for new people in my field to understand that as well. Because if you're in a position where rent's due, they're going to have what we call in the industry commission breath. Someone can smell when, mortgage is coming up, huh? Because they're really pushing this term life insurance down my throat right now. And so people in this field have to be very cautious of that and really remember the entire mission is just for our communities to get educated. The money is going to follow that. Because essentially what we do and what we educate on, it's needed by everybody. But if you're telling someone this is what they need, they probably won't get it. But if you tell them the options they have, you lay down a bunch of solutions in front of them, let them pick what they're comfortable with, that makes the process so much easier and comfortable for both parties.
Right. So basically, in a nutshell, you're teaching as opposed to selling.
Exactly.
And then once they learn, they kind of come to you anyway, naturally.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Simple. And again, the reason I kind of wanted to speak to you about this stuff is to put it out there because, like, for myself, like, I didn't know a lot of this stuff earlier, right? So I am in my later stage. Like, I got married late, you know, child late. I started some of it before that.
Right.
But, God, I was in my 30s already, right? Had I started it sooner, I'd been in a totally different place.
Right.
Like, even, like, for times when work's slow, and I was like, oh, maybe I can borrow some money from my retirement plan or whatnot.
Right.
And ultimately, I've asked a few people on the show, like, well, do you have a retirement plan? And a few people have said, no, I don't know. So, not to sound salesy, but we have someone here who can help you.
Yeah, no, I like to say, like, if someone just wants a free consultation, sit down, just get information and never talk to me again, then hey, that's what happens. But the reality is it's hard to learn this information, see what's out there for you that can truly help you and walk away from it. And so because I understand the importance of what these plans and solutions can do for somebody, I also understand that I'm willing to sit with people for free, whether they work with me or not, because at some point, they're probably going to turn around and say, you know what, I actually need to look at this again. Because if it's not important right now, it will be in the future.
So to go back to kind of your process in this, I know you mentioned you met someone, and I remember you telling me before you started off as just kind of doing referrals.
Yeah.
And then, and you started earning well off of just referrals.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because in this field, highly regulated, you have to be licensed. And so during the pandemic, when I realized, my check flew out the window on the entertainment industry side, I better figure something out. I really entered the industry to learn more for myself so I could pass on the information to the other people that I've worked with before. And so going into that, I realized, if I get my license, every time I send somebody over to my company or my senior broker, at the time, they're just going to split those commissions with me. And I was like, I don't got to do any of the work. I'll just send them over to you. And not only does this person get helped, but it's fully complimentary to them. Like, our clients don't pay $1 for any of our services, but it'll also help me keep getting a check. So got my license in 2 days. I just force-fed myself that entire course to study, took the test, passed, thank you, Lord. And I started sending my senior broker everyone I could think of, like, hey, it's free information, why not go? You know, there's really nothing to lose. And so that same month that I got licensed, I had already fully replaced or even started making more than I was as a dancer when I thought I was doing really well as dancer and model. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm doing way less work now. I send out a few text messages and I'm living the same lifestyle I was before, even better. And so for me, because I became passionate about helping people in this field, I said, but I don't want to just pass them over. I want to work with them directly because these are my friends. This is my family. Let me support them. Plus, also, I didn't have to split my commissions with the other agents anymore. I was an independent agent. And so it really just took off from there.
Right. Technically, even just referring, you're technically an agent.
You're technically an agent, legally licensed in your state, even though you don't have to actively do any of the work.
Right.
They still have to recognize you as someone that's legally allowed to be in the field.
It's like dipping your toe in the water.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So if you want to do more, you can. And if not, you could still make a little bit of money on the side.
100%. Yeah. And that's what I mean when I say there's so many ways to make money. But if somebody, for example, one of our clients is stuck at the cash flow side, I bring up the opportunity. And like I said before, it's not going to be for everyone. But if someone says, yeah, I do see value in this and I want the people I know to know this too, so their futures can financially change, then hey, I could send them a thank you card or I could send them a commission check. Right. And people in that situation will say, well, just to help someone else I know, I can start investing for myself. It makes the most sense, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, the reason I brought that up is because I know we've actually talked about that a little bit, and I've been looking into it because it's something my dad did, right? Really, right? And my uncle does it. So I was like, why don't I just look into this too? Make more money because we all got slow points, right?
Right, 100%.
And then anyone who works in the production world, like television and all that, it's scarce right now.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel this is useful, for myself and for anyone else in a similar field in this day and age, especially.
Right.
I know obviously this is going to go on the internet and this will live on the internet forever. But if you're listening to this year or even next year, who knows? I don't know what next year's looking like.
Right.
I feel this is all just valuable information. How long was it before you decided, oh, let me do this for myself to not share a commission?
It probably took me 6 months to say, okay, let me start really learning this stuff for myself. Let me start learning how to ask the right questions and learn about different companies so that when I'm sitting with a family, I can really show them options, not just one thing, but many different things we could do for them. But even that part, because
So it was more studying then?
It was more studying because, you know, when you're going to help a family directly, it's like I knew everything on the test, but remember I crammed that test. I probably memorized half of it. I don't recommend that. But I was just trying to get that license. So now the real studying came in where I said, well, if I'm going to help a family, I have to really listen to what they want. I think another part of someone coming off very salesy is sitting with someone and saying, oh, you're not debt free. You need to sit with my debt settlement company, or you need to be referred to this estate planner. It's really easy to tell somebody what you think they need from the outside, but we have to really consciously listen to what they even feel is important. Maybe what we're recommending is important to us because we feel like that's one of my financial goals, but we're sitting with someone and their financial goals look completely different than us, even their lifestyle. And so that does take an extra step of studying to say, okay, how do I just get good with people? Which sounds funny. You would think it would be mostly finance that you're learning, but really it was a lot of personal development and the skills to deal with people. Because if they don't feel comfortable enough to even talk about their financial situations, what their goals are, you're not going to be able to help them anyway. So it was a lot of studying in that area of just dealing with people and human nature. And then, of course, along with that comes, well, now I do have to be the expert in the financial field too, because if I recommend something or if I show them options, I want to be able to explain that fully to them.
So now that you and your husband, you have a family on the way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What is something you would recommend for people who maybe also a similar situation, family on the way, or just started? Like, what is some of your first recommendations that you would share?
Oh, yeah. Man, I'm like, probably everything that's
Or in
easy.
theory, what are you
We're doing.
What are you
Yeah,
doing?
everything we're doing. I mean, following that financial path, we've not only figured out the cash flow that works for us, but we found easy ways, strategies to get out of debt. Even if we go into a little bit, we know how to reverse right back out. So we know how to use it as a weapon rather than it weaponizing us, right? And then more than that, because we are fully independent now and we have someone on the way, a little girl on the way, it was very important for us to get protection. So we definitely have multiple actually policies, some that are here to build our future, some that are here just for protection, some that are here, to be honest, we have a policy that's specifically, and I told my husband, hey, if anything happens to me, this one goes to building churches in other countries. And we're just very, very big within our faith. So I even have one that just goes specifically to that because that's what's important to me. But now once this child is born, and anyone that has a young kid or one on the way, is our alternative college funds. Most people hear of the traditional ones, but the traditional ones like 529 plan, it's not that they're bad, but there's a lot of restrictions on them. And so there's alternative types of accounts out there and strategies where if it's invested in that, maybe the kid doesn't go to college, they can use the money still as a down payment on a home, or to travel the world, or to start a business, which my husband's always been an entrepreneur, so wouldn't be surprised if that happened with her. But it's just a way to make sure she's going to have the best head start on life possible. And even if she wanted to take over that account one day when she's older, if she continued investing in it, oh my gosh, her retirement would be ridiculous. It would be ridiculous. Right. So that's so far what we have. And there's so many other plans that we are still currently putting into place. But those are the strong ones that I feel like has made our portfolio and the foundation of it very, very solid. So whatever else we throw on top is just going to be a bonus at this point.
So you're getting stuff set up for her already.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you're still managing enough to put some stuff aside for yourselves.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So do you have like a retirement goal, like a date?
That's a great question. So in terms of retirement, me and my husband, we talk about, one day we're going to relax. But to be honest, we're so passionate about what we do the idea of, I don't want to be working by the time I'm 60 or 65, I really feel like is a 9 to 5 type of thing. You can have an amazing job. For example, I know so many people in the medical field, you do so much schooling for it, you make great money, you're helping people, you're saving people's lives every day. But even them in that field where it's high pressure, it's the same thing every single day. That's why so many people, even in that industry, are like, how can I retire early, right? I feel like people get to a point where they're pushed too much and that's it. I think when you're in an industry that you're really passionate about, you don't really think of it until it becomes too much. And luckily, because we're both on the business side, the plan really isn't to do what we're doing for the rest of our lives. The plan is to be able to pass down the businesses we have, whether that's to our next of kin if they want it, if not, to hand it out to the next generation, someone we trust, where they can take it over.
And I'm kind of glad you point that out. That feels like a very 9 to 5 thing to be like, oh, I want to retire at this point. But like, not that I still want to be in like bars and clubs DJing. Like,
Right.
I don't want to do it that much now, to be honest with you. But I mean, look, I still enjoy it, right? So if I'm capable and I'm getting booked, like I'm going to still do it.
Right.
But then I also do like videography, photography. Like if I'm 70 and I'm taking pictures and you still want to pay me for it, like, why wouldn't I do that, right?
Right.
So I do agree that is a very like traditional regular job train of thought, and clearly this is not about this is not about regular jobs. Like we don't really come from that. Yeah, and even what you're doing now, I don't feel is a very regular job. Like it's not. You're not going into the office.
No, we can, which is cool. Like at some point in the future, if I'm like, hey, we want to have a lot of agents that work with us and everyone wants a spot to work, we can open a spot in San Pedro. But I think people's time is so much more valuable now that everyone prefers to work from home if they're able to, right? Some people like it. Some people need to be out. Whatever their personality is works for them. For me, I like working from home because it's not really working from home. I have an office here at our place, but if I ever wanted to take my computer and go travel with my husband, because he's on the road a lot, he does a lot of touring, I could take my computer and go touring with him for a full year if I wanted to, because I could essentially do appointments from anywhere. And so I really enjoy what we do. And just going back to the retirement thing, I think that there is that fine line between I want to fully relax, I don't want to do what I'm doing anymore, and when am I just going to be financially stable enough where if I am working, it's because I'm passionate about it. I don't need to, And I think if I had to come up with some number, probably, 45, 50, which based on the financial plan we have in place, and if we even started doing more within the next couple of years here, we're going to see financially how things go with the baby, because I heard they're expensive, right?
They're a little pricey.
And we want a couple kids, so we're gonna see how it goes. But just based on us starting so early, the type of plans and solutions we have in place, it would be easy to say we can sit back and relax a little bit more by that age if we wanted to. Now, do I see us stop working? No, because we're passionate about it, just like you said, because we're passionate about what we do and helping families in both of our businesses. But if we did want to take more of a step back, we would be able to financially. And I think that's a lot of people in our industry's goal is not to say, I just don't want to ever do this again at some point in the future, but to say, I'm not doing it because I'm putting food on the table. I'm doing it because I genuinely enjoy it.
All right. So typically I give people I'll ask people like some final words, like typically something kind of cliche, but it has to do with kind of being in a creative field, but obviously combining the two. You come from both and you're kind of understanding both. What are some final thoughts and words?
I would say, for anyone that's still in the entertainment industry, this is what you want to do. Do not drop the financial, the realistic, the logical side of things. Still dream big, but work with somebody to make sure that you can continue living that dream. It's 100% possible, but not without planning, because people don't plan to fail. Most people fail to plan. Right. That's my little cliche.
That's the cliche line
That's
right
my
there.
little cliche line, yeah.
And as I always ask you, because those cliche lines, sometimes you just kind of need to hear them again, right? Just to get reminded of it. I would ask for more, but let's just have people send us a message.
Yeah.
And I'll send them your way.
I agree. Yeah.
And let's do that. So my take from it is get yourself educated, understand stuff, and here's someone to help you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let people know where to find you online, with your social media and all that.
All right. Well, I'm on every platform. I'm just kidding. Instagram's probably where I'm most active. It's katierose.bae, B-A-E. And then, but also if you just type in Katie Batres on LinkedIn or Facebook, maybe even Snapchat. I'm not really on Snapchat, but any of those platforms, I'm there too. And so if anyone has any sort of questions about anything, especially on the finance side, entertainment, I still love helping out with those resources too. Especially on the finance side, I'm here to just give free information. Actually, follow me on TikTok. It's called Wealth Wife. I used to post almost a video a day, so there's like thousands of videos on there, but I'm going to get back to it. But I post new information that would help everybody, no matter what your situation is right now. And it's just a little dose of education. It's not too much, nothing overwhelming. But if you'd prefer to just watch those before actually reaching out, that's completely fine too.
I actually learn a lot from those videos nowadays.
Right, yeah.
It's amazing. People who do are sharing tons of information out there. So thank you for taking time. I'm going to talk to you soon, but I think the next time I see you, probably have a child already.
I probably will.
Yeah.
I probably will.
Yeah. Well, congratulations in advance, but I will be talking to you sooner than that.
Yes.
Katie, everybody. My little sound effect button. There's applause in there.
Okay, awesome.
Pleasure conversations. We'll see you next time.